Progress is better than no progress. You already know. So what is going on, you guys? Welcome back to the channel. Today is a super late start in this video because I've kind of had a couple of friends stop by today. The first friend, his name is Thomas. You guys may or may not know him, but Thomas from Eliminate stopped by to have me do some modification for some lower control arms for his bagged IS300. Now, the bag is actually hitting his spindle and he wants to extend his lower control arm to kind of push the spindle away from his bag when he's completely aired out. So he stopped by this morning to drop off some LCAs he picked up from the junkyard, and he wants me to extend it about 30 millimeters. Now, I have never done this before, but I understand the concept. I've seen it done on many channels before. Even my friend out here does extended LCAs and stuff. So I understand the concept and I know how to go about the situation. I've been hanging out here just trying to figure this out, and the homie Isai also pulled up. He's right here. And he kind of stopped by. He is off at work a little bit early today. He brought some, you know, some drinks and stuff because it is still kind of warm out. But we were trying to figure out his clunking issue on his element. So I mentioned in previous videos before about his element making like clunky noise up in the front. A lot of you guys were saying end links, which I think it is as well too, but I really can't tell. It looks like it's all intact, but it can internally be messed up like my CRV was. A lot of people were saying axle. Element Lifestyle was saying that if you're lifted, you're best off using the OEM axles. He has import direct in his, and we think it might be an axle situation because when you go underneath the car and you move it around, it clunks a lot. Now that the engine is nice and solid, because the previous video we did the motor mount installation, the engine movement is not there anymore, and it kind of helps us kind of pinpoint the location of the noise, and it sounds like it's coming from the passenger side. Now the suspension stuff is all tightened down completely. The bushings and the LCAs are actually swapped over to the Element 44. Element 44 spherical lower control arm for the Element, and I'm 100% sure that's not making any noise. We tightened up all those bolts up as well, and it's really just chasing whatever that clunky noise is. But aside from that, it drives well. It drives straight for the most part until you hit boost. It wants to kind of bounce all over the place, but that also indicates like a end-link situation or a sway bar situation. But I'm not sure we're going to get into that today, but I know for sure I want to get down with modifying these lower control arms. So for this DIY, I'm only going to do one LCA. I'll do the other one off camera because, again, this is my first time doing it, and I want to make sure that I'm going to take my sweet time to do it right. And then once I am comfortable with the first set, the second one should be a breeze.
This thing, it's making you get an ice bath. Faster and cheaper than effective rest charges, expenses, more incentives at Invesco.com. Remind me one more time that's nobody's up this love tonight. Feel the same when I say I can't find you right. Fucking up that street show. Homegirl, you've been on my mind. I just talk about you all the time. You be going down me on your sauna kind. I could be a fantasy. They throwing shit, but I would rather rent a can of beer. We, you, and something see-through. We so legendary, queen. We DQ, and this the preview.
I made a jig out of a piece of wood I found in the backyard. The biggest bolt I found in my bin right here, and you guys saw I threaded into the wood right there, and then I cut the head off the bolt. This bolt is acting like a stud to go into the hole of the LCA while it is secured down with a 12 mil. I dug the hole deeper so the 12 mil is sitting flush, so when I have this on the table, it is nice and flat. With the 12 mil bolted to the LCA, it is securing it to the wood, and then the stud is keeping the LCA from moving around. So I'm gonna go ahead and just brainstorm this a little bit more, and then we'll proceed with the cut on the LCA. So take this one, put it on the top, take this one, put it on the bottom, put a bolt, put a nut on the bottom. I'll probably do it just like this. Oh yeah, I sure can. 1/4, measure it out, make my line. both sides.
Hello, mosquitoes.
Yup. I'm gonna be an idiot for doing this bare hand, but fucking bitch!
Mames.
Oh, so hopefully you guys can see this, but we have this weird looking jig fixture thingamabob, clamp thingamabob, and this right here is a second design from what I originally came up with. So let me explain. This is going to go to where the ball joint hole is going to be at, and this is going to be a nut and bolt system. So you can see there's two pieces of metal that goes over the LCA, and then I have a bolt and nut system. The nut goes on the bottom. We're going to go ahead and kind of tighten this up a little bit, but before I tighten it all the way, I'm going to push the bracket all the way back so it is all the way to the furthest point of the hole, and then we're going to secure it into place. But before we also secure it into place, there's a bunch of lines right here on the wood. So the line is going to be my guide to pull this plate back 30 millimeters. So I'm going to go ahead and align this onto the markings on the wood. Right? So you can see there's a second line back here. This line from the front of the base plate is 30 millimeters. So once I cut the LCA, we're gonna move this base plate 30 millimeters back, and I'm probably gonna secure it with some bolts or something. And this should keep the LCA aligned with each other, and then that'll leave me the gap in the middle to, you know, plate up and fill in, and probably also box it in as well too. But that's pretty much my simple jig for extending LCAs. I mean, I'm pretty sure there would have been a lot easier way to do this, but you know, we're just kind of winging it because I ain't never done it before. So I think I'm gonna go ahead and just chop the LCA now. Okay, so we have our piece cut off here, and you can see that it is still attached to this bracketry that I've made. As long as this is flat on the wood, this should kind of be in line with our cutoff. So we have these lines on the wood to kind of align this little base plate, right? 30 millimeters lined up against all of the markings we have here. 30 millimeters, about somewhere there. Probably gonna put some screws so that way it can stay into place. This gap here should be about 30 millimeters. Let me go ahead and use my mic here to double check. Sure, we're gonna be looking right there, about 31. We can always adjust it accordingly, right? 31 millimeter in that gap. And yeah, so now I'm gonna go ahead and figure out how I'm gonna bridge these two back together. 30 millimeter worth. Let's brainstorm. I took the LCA off the jig and I beveled the edges. Now, beveling the edges is literally just sanding off the edge and putting a slant on it, so that way we can weld deeper and penetrate more. So right now we have it back on the jig. I remeasured it. It's still 30 millimeters from edge to edge. And what I'm going to do is I'm probably going to put a plate right in the middle right? And I'm gonna weld off the plate into the LCA and pretty much fill it up. You can see this little square in the middle here from beveling, and that is about 15 millimeters. I don't have anything that thick, but what I do have is this giant plate, and this is actually 5 millimeters thick. What I'm gonna do is I'm gonna cut 2 pieces of this to make it 10 millimeters, and I'm not trying to make it the full 15 because I want to be able to bite more into the LCA. So 15 millimeters with 2 plate added to 10, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to slit the square so we can slide the flat plate in, and then weld the plate onto the LCA and then fill it up. And then once we fill it up, we can box it up. It's kind of confusing, I guess, but let me go ahead and measure this out, cut out those plates, and show you what I'm talking about. I don't know if I recorded this, but I took the LCA back off and I slit the surface right there. You can see on both sides, and I did cut out the piece that's going to be going in between. Right now it's taped up together because I was kind of like test fitting and beveling the edges right here. And let me show you guys how I envisioned this. So that little slot right there is supposed to allow this piece to slide on in, kind of like a puzzle, and you can see slides right in. And I'm gonna adjust it obviously before I weld it up, but you can see it kind of slid right on in there. And now I can just go ahead and, like, you know, weld all the edges up, and then once that is nice and secured into place, we weld the edge right here to put these two together. And then once this is secured to both pieces, it's probably going to stay on the jig when I weld it up so it doesn't like warp and move and shift and change. But the problem is I want to use the 220 volt, but my brother's doing laundry, so I don't want to burn on the 110 because I can only go up to about the number 7, which is only an 1/8 inch, and I obviously want to weld much thicker material, and I want to crank this thing up all the way. So 220 volt to do that, and I'm gonna have to wait because, you know, I can't use the 220 right now. So I'm gonna go ahead and just kind of like shimmy all of this, get all the measurements. So right now I'm gonna go ahead and just use my hammer, tap this all into place, make sure everything's nice and straight, everything's all lined up here, and we'll get to welding in just a second. I'm honestly only on the 110 because I actually don't have the adapter for the 110 to the 220. I only have 220 down to the 110. So not bad. We're running beads on here. We are running beads on here. Okay guys, so we have the top side all welded up. This thing is beat it. Get it? Beat it. But yeah, anyways, so this right here is pretty much the extension for the LCA, 30 millimeters. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to shave this down like I mentioned, and then we're going to plate it up probably from the top and the bottom side. I can't really do too much on the sides because this hole needs to be you know, cleared so that way the bolt and stuff can go through it. But I'm gonna have to do this when I get back home. I gotta take off right now, and we're most definitely going to finish this up and probably start on the other side if we have time. But other than that, it's the same process, but we'll get back to this. We'll plate it when we get back. Back in the garage, and you guys just saw that we shaved down the welds on the LCA. I shaved the top and the bottom side because I'm gonna put plates on it to give it more strength. I did also shave the side just to kind of make it look nice and cleaner. Back in the garage, and you guys saw that we shaved down the welds on the LCA. I shaved the top and the bottom because we're gonna plate it. You can kind of see I beveled it a little bit more just so we can get more bite into it. And I also shaved the sides down because I wanted to be nice and uniform. I am gonna weld some of these little like gaps just so it's nice and smooth when it gets painted or whatever. But I was gonna box the entire thing in, but I trust my welds enough, and on top of that, I don't want to put a plate on the sides because these right here has to be clear for the bolt that goes in it. Well, the machine kept cutting off because we're running off the 110 with an extension to another strip, and then that strip is connected to that. It's just a lot of power going on, and I couldn't weld long periods at a time. So we got the LCA plated up from the top and the bottom side. Still kind of crispy here, but it is all ready to rock and roll. I did shave all of the pinholes here, and it's looking nice and clean. So this thing is probably gonna be painted by him because I don't know if he wants to paint it or not paint it or do a fancy color or something. So I'm gonna leave it raw the way it is, and I'm gonna go ahead and get started on the other one here. I'm gonna spend more time to knock this out instead of showing you guys every step. It's practically the same. I'm gonna do the other lower control arm off camera because it's practically the same process, and I just want to focus on getting it done instead of shifting the camera around. I did promise him that the LCA should be done today and ready for pickup, so I'm gonna go ahead and just get that one done with the power of YouTube. Here it is, all done. So we got both lower control arms extended 30 millimeters, and I mean they're plus or minus maybe 30-31 or 30-32, but regardless, he does have full adjustable suspension as far as like toe, camber plates and all that stuff, so he can get his car into the specification he needed to be to fit his wheels on the car. I've already notified him, so he should be on his way to pick it up here in a few. But Lexus IS300 extended lower control arms, I've never done it before. Definitely was a fun process because I literally spent like almost a half day to really sit and figure out how we were going to extend this. And after doing a lot of research, people were doing the LCAs that were like box style, kind of like the 240s and stuff, but a full solid like cast iron, whatever this is. This was a little more tricky. So I just made a jig out of scrap material around the house, a piece of wood as the base plate, a random bolt that I found to fit the holes for whatever this may be, and I have a little 12 mil on the bottom to secure the LCA to the jig, and then a bunch of random flat stocks that I need to secure the ball joint mounting location. But anyways, a random jig I made out of scrap material around the house. We achieved 30 millimeter extended lower control arms. Now, most people do anywhere between 20, 25 to 30, depending on how extreme you want to go. This is not for a drift spec that he's going for. He extended the lower control arms to clear the spindle from his airbags, and these should fix his issue. So that is going to be it for this video, guys. I hope you enjoyed the extension of these lower control arms. If you guys did, be sure to leave a thumbs up, and if you guys want to stick around for regular programming, be sure to hit the subscribe button. But with that being said, thank you guys for watching, and I'll see you guys in the next video. Peace.